Hello, and welcome to the second season of the IT's Her Future podcast. This series is aimed at giving an insight into various careers in the technology space that you might be unfamiliar with and hear from guests who work in these areas. I'm your host Neve, and this month we'll be discussing the area of quality engineering and testing with our guest Sammi McKee. So, Sammi, would you like to introduce yourself and give us a bit of a rundown as to your background?
I'm really happy to be here and excited to talk to everybody about quality engineering as a career. I think the best to get to know me is to start out with my background. I began my career in consultancy overall as just being part of the KPMG UK graduate team, which means that I actually didn't start right away in testing. I got to have a lot of different lovely experiences and try new things out. However, after I worked at a variety of client projects, mastering different skills, I actually was able to see a lecture from a tester. He gave a very simple prompt, otherwise known as a triangle test. The prompt was a text box, a button, and a simple question: can you break it? This problem, which at first glance appears to be quite straightforward, sparked my interest in testing. I really had a passion for looking at a system and seeing if I could push the boundaries of it, intentionally seeking its weaknesses, with the ultimate goal of enhancing the final product's quality and performance before it goes live.
So, as you've touched on, what is quality engineering and testing for those of us who might not know?
Yes, so I know that a lot of people testing, if they do know about it, I would say that it doesn't tend to trigger a lot of interest at first with, say, new grads that come into the company or, people starting out their careers. That is something that people should really think about testing because it is such an interesting, unique way to actually learn completely about a system. I don't think that people really realize that we are involved from the beginning of the life cycle for a development of a product to the very end. It's a very exciting area. And basically what testing is in the context of software development specifically, it's the process of evaluating a software system or a component of a system to ensure that it behaves as expected and meets specified requirements that we would potentially do in the design phase, which means that requirements are when we are deciding what we actually want from an end product. And this is done with, say, UX designers and who are the ones who write out designs of the system and put together quite a bit of material and workflows to show how we want the end product to go. And also working with business analysts who also are really working with our clients and everything like that to ensure that these requirements are set out and we have a full scope of the project. However, because of this, the testing is really based off of these requirements. Does the product when it's going into the test? And then due to this, if it does, we identify defects and errors. Testing then makes sure that we are actually improving the quality, reliability, and overall user satisfaction at the end. No one wants to go on to one of their social media accounts and they're trying to log into a social media account. And what if that login doesn't work? That's going to cause tons of issues. I mean, I can imagine that anybody that just wants to log onto their Instagram or their Facebook and they can't log in, that would be a huge error or defect that would decrease user satisfaction, also decrease people wanting to use that system. So testing is really a required area of the process of developing a product. Additionally, the best part about this is we get to actually try and, kind of break the system before it goes live. We like to do the thing where we get to be kind of the no guys, which I know that some people don't want to be the no guys. You want to keep pushing the project forward, but we actually get to really look into the system and we get to, I know this is probably maybe a joke that some people won't appreciate, but I always get to say when a product is made, everybody thinks it's beautiful. It's like a baby. We get to sometimes say that their baby is ugly, but that's always just my little testing joke.
I quite appreciate the joke. It really helps put it into context. So, as it seems through what you've briefly mentioned, there are quite a few areas that fall under quality engineering and testing. So, can you possibly outline a few of those areas for us?
Yes. So first off, we have the different types of testing that perform during specifically the software development life cycle. So this will be, we start out with unit testing, which will test individual components or units of code in isolation. We then have the integration testing, which will verify the interaction and compatibility between different modules of a software system. And then we also have some system testing that looks at the system as a whole and make sure the components work together and meet specified requirements. We then go into a bit more of the functional testing, which verifies that the software functions that I've talked about before really are working according to the specifications, features input, and user interactions and all the requirements. Then once we get all of this, we have regression testing. Basically, regression testing is actually retesting some of previous fixes to the system to ensure that new enhancements don't actually introduce new defects or issues to existing functionality. And then towards the end, we have some usability testing, which looks at the test in the software's user friendliness. This will sometimes be looked at by actually end users. So it's called user acceptance testing and ensuring that it's intuitive and it's overall good for the user experience. This is during the software development life cycle. But if we have specific areas within testing that are a bit more niche, we also have something called performance testing, which performance testing is also a bit more code-based because basically we're trying to stress conditions and measuring response times and scalability of the resource. So this means that we are actually write scripts to ensure that, say if there are 200 users up to thousands of users using a system, does the system handle that load or is it going to break down? So say if we go into, say, once again, a social media account, if, the Instagram or Facebook, they have millions of users using it, if they aren't able to be scalable, and it breaks down and the system functionality goes down, that it's not used for purpose. So performance testing looks and ensures that the stress of a system is working appropriately. There is also some really cool stuff called accessibility testing, which is also looking for people that potentially have disabilities that don't allow them to use a software system effectively. So this will look at ensuring that even a blind person, they are able to have the screen reader test, which means that can the website or software system actually speak back out to you and the components, they know where they are on the system. They can't see the system. Then there's also a lot of assistive technology, compatibility testing, and ensuring that there's also, say, even the smallest thing, color contrast testing, which makes sure that if you have a blue site with a yellow font, that's going to give people migraines. So we can't have that. And then there's the thing that I work in a lot, which is automation testing. And it really refers to the use of an automation framework that basically does automated, repetitive, and time-consuming manual testing tasks. But we code this, so say even my framework is Python-based. And what it does is it means that the test script development, I can easily create scripts based off of functions I've already created within like a Python-based system. And I can run these tests overnight. So say the login feature, once again, I'll go back to, if someone had to constantly retest this login feature for regression testing, this is going to be so time consuming and quite repetitive and boring. If we can do it where we can press play and use that overnight time, so we call it dead time when you're not at work, and it can test the system and feedback results, this is a great way to really bring a return on investment for the testing aspect of it, because this means that we can provide that regression testing without and save time for manual testing. And this is very effective and really helps improve accuracy, also improves the overall quality of the system. So automation testing is a really big thing right now within testing to ensure that we are saving time and able to go to market quickly with our projects.
Thank you so much for that. I didn't realize how many different areas were going to fall under the umbrella of just testing and quality engineering. So in your opinion, Sammi, what are some key soft skills that are required to be in quality engineering and testing?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people, because when we're talking about technology and everything like that, a lot of people think, okay, I just need all these technical skills. But really, anytime we're going into business and you're working with teams, because that's the thing, even though I know that I said the baby is ugly, we really are working with, say, the developers. We're on the same team. We're all going towards the exact same end goal, which is to make a beautiful baby for the end user. And so, alongside any technical skills that would be required, you will need great communication skills. You need effective communication because you need to not only interact with your team members, but you're going to need to interact with stakeholders as well. The client that you may be working for, I know sometimes you won't be in consulting, you might also be on just testing within your company for a product you're creating, but stakeholders will still be, say, your higher ups and everything like that, or say even investors. You need clear and concise communication so that you can actually convey these issues and report bugs and collaborate effectively. If you're just throwing bugs at people, you're kind of just causing issues. You really need to work to make sure that those bugs are handled correctly. Another big thing is you need attention to detail. That's the biggest thing. Attention to detail. Testing requires really a keen eye to identify even the smallest defects or deviations. So being really meticulous and ensure the accuracy of your test results. Overall, analytical and problem-solving skills and critical thinking, this all works in as well because you need to be able to analyze complex systems, identify different, patterns that might be appearing with issues and also help solve the problems. I know that I said we're the no guys, but we're not just the no guys. We're also maybe saying, no, this isn't working appropriately, but we're not just saying that. We're then working with developers to ensure that we are troubleshooting the issues and determining root causes. Another big thing, but I would say this might not just be within testing, but really time management is always a big thing. Different people have different ways of time management, but really being able to prioritize tasks and allocating what resources you require effectively as well to complete this. Also, you want to embrace opportunities to enhance your knowledge and, of course, industry trends, because this is still an evolving practice. And then I know that also, of course, I've said this in the past, I would say that in psychology, when I was writing up my papers in university, I wasn't a great writer, but documentation is also very important and reporting. And I know that sometimes this kind of sounds like a boring thing to go into, but really being able to document and report and effectively be able to put this in is fantastic because say if you have new people that come onto your team, you have different stakeholders that come onto the team. A lot of people keep forgetting about the documentation reporting aspect that's really required in order to ensure that we have strong written communication and also that people that come in don't feel out of place because they don't really know what's happening and then it's all through verbal communication. Documentation is a huge thing across any team and really is required to ensure that a project works effectively.
I think you brought up some really great soft skills and such a range that are needed, especially your final point about reporting and documentation. It links really well to your initial point of communication, as it's just a form of written communication. So, in addition to the soft skills you've just outlined, what are some more technical skills that might be needed for a role within quality engineering and testing?
I would say it is beneficial to have a range of technical skills, specifically looking at programming languages if you want to get into automation or even just help out developers to understand what's happening in the background of systems. Also, web technologies, the different various web technologies that are out there and understanding that. Once again, also say just understanding software development life cycle is very important and all of that. But these are areas that are really required as you get further in your career and you can learn on the job as we're starting out. These are also something that's very much learned within your starting out your career. I would say that the curiosity and interest for looking within technology and all of that is something that you will be very good for having technical skills for testing.
Great, thank you. So, to wrap up the podcast, I'd like to end with some practical advice. So, what would you say to either someone at entry level looking to enter quality engineering and testing, or perhaps someone who's considering a career change?
So, if you're considering a career in testing, I would say that a big thing is, well, having these technical skills and also these soft skills. It's really essential to have a strong understanding of or have a curiosity for testing concepts, methodologies, and best practices, as well as, looking into seeking practical experience. So there is a lot of things where you can even start to do a bit of testing stuff with open source projects and looking at those and helping to contribute towards that. You can also pursue certifications as well. There's a ton out there for testing that will help you get better knowledge. Overall, though, I keep, of course, bringing this back. I think that testing really is the want to be curious about these systems, curious about embracing new technical advancements within testing. I would say overall is I, of course, have started out in psychology. I had no idea about testing, but my want to really embrace all of these with looking at and engaging with the testing community and staying positive, being persistent with going forward within this career is something that is really required if you want to pursue a career in testing. Testing does offer a wide range of opportunities. So continuous learning, refining your skills, and staying updated with industry trends is really going to help you start to pursue a career in this area.
I think that was a really wonderful point you made about persistence just there. Thank you so much, Sammi, for talking with us today. It was great to hear your insights, and I hope those listening have learnt a lot about the area of quality engineering and testing. If you think a career within tech or within KPMG is for you, please go to our website, www.kpmgcareers.co.uk. And if you wish to reach out to IT's Her Future to ask any questions, or if you have any topics you think we should cover, the email is itsherfuture@kpmg.co.uk. Thank you for listening.